Good morning. It is the 12th of March, 2026.
Good morning to you.
You are joining us for a comprehensive morning brief on the current events significantly affecting our region and the nation.
Today's deep dive is sponsored by ProWave AI.
Exactly. And the intelligence we will be reviewing has been generated by Stylo News, the premier AI-powered news application.
The title of today's brief is Middle East Crisis: Military Escalation and Global Impact.
Before we dive into the wire today, it is important to briefly explain the architecture behind the intelligence we are bringing to you.
Right, because Stylo News is the consumer version of the Stylo Intel ops software.
And that enterprise software is traditionally utilized for high-level operations by governments, military organizations, and global businesses.
What this means for you, the listener, is that you now possess unique access to an elite decision-making tool.
A tool that is seamlessly parsing millions of data points globally.
Our mission for this deep dive is to impartially track the primary patterns of military and political events that have unfolded over the past 2 weeks.
We will examine the local, national, and international impacts of these events.
Furthermore, we will identify the perspectives of key decision-makers.
We will also analyze prevailing social media sentiment and forecast the most likely upcoming scenarios for your situational awareness.
And as always, our delivery will remain entirely factual, unbiased, and devoid of fear-mongering.
We are simply presenting the intelligence as it stands today.
Let us begin with the inciting incidents and the recent military escalations.
We have observed a significant strategic shift.
Yes, moving the primary theater of operations from the localized Gaza conflict.
Which, of course, was initiated on October 7, 2023.
Correct. Moving from that toward a much broader, multi-front regional war.
The primary catalyst for this shift materialized precisely on February 28, 2026.
On the morning, the United States and Israel launched coordinated, preemptive military strikes on Iranian targets.
Now, I must say, looking at the intelligence reports on those initial operations, the sheer scale of the February 28 strikes
is somewhat staggering.
We are not talking about a handful of tactical maneuvers here.
No, factual reports indicate over 5,000 targets were struck, utilizing more than 2,000 munitions.
Can we contextualize the logistical and financial reality of an operation of that magnitude?
Well, the logistics are immense, and the financial expenditure reflects that.
Right.
For the United States military alone, the cost in just the first 48 hours of this operation reached approximately $5.6 billion.
$5.6 billion?
Yes. To put that into perspective for you, that is effectively the entire annual gross domestic product of a small nation.
Expended in the span of a single weekend.
Exactly. It illustrates a level of force projection that requires massive, sustained supply chains.
And that force projection did not remain confined to the air, did it?
No, it did not.
Because if we look at the maritime domain, we saw a concurrent and highly critical escalation off the coast of Sri Lanka.
A United States nuclear-powered submarine engaged and sank the Iranian frigate, the Iranian.
That single naval action seemed to immediately generate incredibly complex diplomatic fallout across the Indo-Pacific.
It absolutely did. The diplomatic strain is quite fascinating to untangle. Let us look at Australia, for instance.
Australia is a key U.S. ally under the AUKUS Pact.
Right. And for those who might not follow naval agreements closely, AUKUS is the trilateral security partnership between Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States.
Primarily focused on nuclear submarine technology.
Precisely. And that pact suddenly became a profound domestic liability in Canberra.
Because of the personnel involved.
Yes, it was confirmed that Australian sailors were present aboard that specific United States submarine during the engagement with the Iranian frigate.
This caused immediate and intense domestic backlash in Australia.
Their government had to scramble to publicly deny that Australian personnel had any active participation in the offensive action.
Just to manage the political firestorm at home.
And Australia was not the only nation caught off guard.
In India, political opposition parties raised severe concerns over maritime security.
They heavily criticized their own government's silence regarding open naval hostilities occurring so incredibly close to Indian maritime borders.
It is a stark reminder of how quickly a localized strike becomes a global diplomatic incident.
Which brings us to Iran's retaliation, designated as Operation True Promise 4.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, did not hesitate.
No, they initiated multiple waves of ballistic and hypersonic missiles.
Defense analysis indicates these included advanced armaments, such as the K-Bar-Shikan,
which is a solid-fueled, medium-range ballistic missile known for its maneuverability.
as well as various cluster warheads. And the targets for these advanced munitions were not strictly military outposts in the desert.
No, they were not.
Yeah.
The primary targets were vital Israeli infrastructure,
Specifically concentrated on major population and transit centers.
like Tel Aviv, Haifa, and the Ben Gurion Airport.
This resulted in direct impacts and caused significant disruption to Israel's civil defense networks.
But the IRGC did not stop at aerial bombardment.
They expanded their retaliatory measures into the commercial maritime sector,
Successfully attacking a United States oil tanker navigating the northern Persian Gulf.
Following that strike, they unilaterally declared the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz a restricted military zone.
This is a massive choke point for global trade.
They effectively stranded approximately 20,000 commercial sailors in the region overnight.
That is exactly right. Stranding 20,000 sailors presents an acute, immediate threat to the stability of global shipping lanes.
It is a textbook example of asymmetric warfare.
Using a regional geographic advantage to hold international commerce hostage.
Let us move to the expanding military fronts and the profound internal political rifts developing concurrently.
We are observing the application of what military analysts are terming the Gaza Doctrine.
For you, the listener, trying to understand the shifting tactics on the ground, how exactly does this doctrine operate?
The Gaza Doctrine refers to a specific strategic shift. As Israeli military focus and resources have heavily pivoted toward Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon,
They have adopted a strategy of utilizing disproportionate military force against regional infrastructure.
the objective is to rapidly suppress militant resistance by degrading the physical environment they operate within.
We are seeing the direct application of this doctrine currently in Lebanon.
Yes, Israeli warnings and continuous airstrikes have forced mass evacuations in the southern suburbs of Beirut amidst escalating clashes.
But if we return our focus to Gaza for a moment, it is vital to impartially report on the severe humanitarian realities unfolding on the ground there as well.
The situation remains dire.
The World Health Organization has issued urgent warnings regarding critical, life-threatening shortages of medical supplies and fuel across the territory.
The civilian infrastructure is severely compromised.
And from a tactical standpoint, Hamas appears to be adjusting to this shift in Israeli resources, correct?
They are. With Israeli air support now heavily committed to the Iranian and Lebanese fronts, Hamas is actively utilizing that diversion.
To quietly rebuild its civil and military command structures within Gaza?
In response to their reduced air cover, Israeli ground forces have had to adapt on the fly.
Deploying highly innovative ground tactics to maintain their defensive lines without the traditional reliance on overwhelming air superiority.
I must note, keeping track of these overlapping fronts is complex enough.
But one of the most critical geopolitical developments in this entire conflict is actually occurring internally, within Iran itself.
You are referring to the fallout following the assassination of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
And the subsequent succession of his son, Mojtaba Khamenei.
This transition of power has fractured the Iranian elite, and it has done so in an incredibly public manner.
The division became fully visible to the world when Iran's reformist president, Masoud Pezeshkian, issued an official public apology.
An apology for attacks launched from Iranian territory against neighboring Gulf states.
Now, for a head of state to apologize for military action is rare enough, but what happened next is truly unprecedented.
The diplomatic maneuver was immediately and publicly repudiated by the IRGC.
The military elite simply ignored the civilian presidency and continued their drone strikes on Gulf targets.
This explicitly signals a deep structural division between Iran's civilian government and its hardline military apparatus,
which fundamentally complicates any international diplomatic efforts.
If the military completely ignores the civilian president, it is no longer clear to the international community who actually holds the ultimate authority.
Authority to negotiate a ceasefire, or even to establish back-channel communications.
Exactly. It creates a diplomatic vacuum at the worst possible time.
And the global ripple effects of these regional events, both the military strikes and the diplomatic breakdown, are already severely impacting energy markets and domestic policies worldwide.
Let's bring this directly to how it affects you.
Because the disruption in the Strait of Hormuz is not just a headline, it has triggered a global energy crisis.
Oil prices have rapidly surged above $100 per barrel.
That is a cost increase that invariably trickles down to the gas pump and the grocery store.
Furthermore, Russian President Vladimir Putin has issued a stark public warning
regarding the potential for a complete cessation of global oil flows if hostilities continue to escalate.
In response to this extreme market volatility, the United States has made several significant policy adjustments.
To attempt to stabilize global markets, the U.S. has temporarily authorized a partial lifting of sanctions.
Specifically allowing India to purchase Russian oil.
Additionally, diplomatic back channels have seen U.S. officials requesting that Israel halt its strikes on Iranian energy infrastructure.
To prevent further price shocks to the global system.
But there is also a longer-term strategic play happening here domestically regarding energy, isn't there?
The U.S. announced the construction of its first new oil refinery in 50 years.
Located in Brownsville, Texas.
What makes this particularly notable is that it is backed significantly by Indian reliance industries.
That is a massive geopolitical insight.
Unpacking that development, it shows the United States and India fundamentally attempting to rewire global energy dependency away from the Middle East.
By partnering on domestic U.S. refining infrastructure, they are creating an energy alliance that bypasses the volatility of the Strait of Hormuz entirely.
It is a long-term economic countermeasure to the current crisis.
Meanwhile, traditional alliances in the Middle East are showing signs of severe strain.
Gulf Arab states, including Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, and Kuwait, have expressed intense frustration with Washington.
Their grievances stem from a distinct lack of advanced warning from the U.S. prior to those February 28 preemptive strikes.
By not providing advanced warning, the U.S. effectively left its Gulf allies vulnerable to the immediate reactionary Iranian retaliation.
Consequently, these nations are now reporting rapidly depleting stockpiles of missile interceptors as they attempt to defend their airspace.
The situation has become so precarious that the United Kingdom has deployed Royal Air Force jets to the region to assist in coalition defenses.
Shifting our focus to United States domestic developments, the geopolitical tension is heavily influencing policy at home.
The Trump administration has unveiled a new, highly aggressive 7-page cybersecurity strategy.
This policy pivot officially prioritizes direct, offensive cyber operations against adversaries.
That is a stark departure from previous predominantly defensive postures.
It signals a readiness to preemptively disable adversarial networks rather than simply patching vulnerabilities and waiting for an attack.
There are also significant domestic security incidents to report that reflect the broader global anxieties.
However, before detailing these events, it is necessary to issue a brief statement regarding our methodology.
The sources we are utilizing contain politically charged content from various ideological spectrums.
We do not endorse any political viewpoints. Our objective is strictly to impartially convey the factual events documented in the source material provided by the Stylo intelligence feed.
With that understood, it is clear that domestic unrest in the United States is mirroring the geopolitical tension abroad.
For instance, the Chicago Teachers Union has publicly organized and supported protests backing Iran.
This is a move that has drawn significant national scrutiny, highlighting the intersection of local labor organizations and international conflicts.
Additionally, during immigration protests in Portland, Oregon, a notable incident occurred.
An Antifa activist, referring to the decentralized anti-fascist political protest movement,
Accidentally caught fire while attempting to burn a United States flag.
Federal law enforcement is reportedly continuing active investigations into the financial networks supporting various domestic actions and protests related to the overseas conflict.
Let us turn our attention to the specific perspectives of the key decision-makers driving this conflict.
Understanding their underlying motivations is crucial for forecasting their next moves.
In the United States, President Trump is operating on a platform of absolute military supremacy.
He views this multi-front conflict as a short-term operation nearing its completion.
Crucially, he has publicly left open the possibility of seizing Iranian oil assets to offset the immense financial costs of the military operations.
He explicitly cited previous United States actions regarding Venezuela as a viable precedent for this strategy.
Conversely, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu frames the current situation very differently.
He views the multi-front engagement as a necessary existential war of redemption.
His administration's stated objective is not just defense, but to secure long-term regional dominance by entirely dismantling Iranian-backed proxy threats across the Middle East.
The perspective from Iran, specifically from the IRGC and the newly consolidated military leadership, is one of total defiance.
They're demanding the full capitulation of their adversary.
I frame every ballistic launch and every maritime disruption in the Gulf as an act of legitimate defense.
And justified retaliation for the preemptive strikes on their sovereign territory.
Caught in the middle of these entrenched positions are the Gulf states and international bodies like the United Nations.
Their perspectives are unified in desperately pleading for immediate de-escalation, a return to diplomatic negotiations, and strict adherence to international humanitarian law.
To prevent a wider, uncontainable catastrophe.
To understand how these incredibly complex events are resonating with the global public, we turn to the sentiment analysis aggregated by the Stylo News AI.
This system has parsed data from over 250 traditional news sources and the social media platform X.
Translating insights across more than 20 languages.
How exactly does the AI parse such a fractured reality?
It does so by categorizing the prevailing narratives.
The resulting environment is, predictably, highly polarized.
On one end of the spectrum, users aligned with the pro-Iran or resistance axis are actively celebrating the conflict.
Social media in these sectors is inundated with posts highlighting the missile strikes on Tel Aviv,
with users triumphantly describing the skies as free of Israeli interceptions.
On the opposing end, anti-Iran and Western-aligned users are heavily emphasizing the absolute necessity of robust military defense against unprovoked aggression.
They view the February 28 preemptive strikes as a vital, unavoidable security measure to neutralize an imminent threat.
However, beneath this deeply polarized rhetoric, the Stylo AI has identified a broad, common viewpoint,
shared across nearly all demographic boundaries.
Whether a user is in North America, Europe, or the Middle East, there is a deep, pervasive anxiety regarding the potential for an apocalyptic regional war.
Users worldwide share a common fear of the conflict spilling entirely into the Gulf states,
which would invariably devastate the global economy through sustained energy blockades.
It is also illuminating to observe the framing techniques utilized by various international media outlets when covering the same set of facts.
For instance, outlets like Zero Hedge and Town Hall are focusing their coverage heavily on domestic United States security.
They frequently editorialize on the domestic unrest we mentioned earlier, criticizing leftist activism.
In contrast, networks such as Al Jazeera and Mondovais are dedicating their primary coverage to the severe humanitarian impacts of the ongoing conflict,
focusing heavily on the civilian consequences of the Gaza doctrine and the mass evacuations in Lebanon.
The facts remain the same, but the lens through which they are presented shifts entirely depending on the outlet.
As we look toward the immediate future, we have synthesized a forecast of the most likely courses of action for you to monitor in the coming days.
Militarily, the intelligence indicates you should expect continued, sustained Israeli and United States strikes on Iranian military and nuclear assets.
In response to those strikes, anticipate the IRGC expanding its asymmetric warfare capabilities.
You should watch for the deployment of coordinated drone swarms and an increase in maritime harassment in the Gulf.
Their primary objective will be to continuously raise the economic cost of the war for the West, making prolonged engagement financially unpalatable.
From an economic standpoint, extreme volatility in the global energy markets is virtually guaranteed at this point.
You should watch closely for potential further adjustments or temporary waivers regarding global oil sanctions,
as nations inevitably scramble to secure their energy supply chains in the face of the ongoing Hormuz disruptions.
Diplomatically, the situation remains highly precarious.
The key indicators to monitor will be high-level back-channel communications.
Specifically, pay attention to any direct dialogue between the United States and Russia regarding energy stabilization.
Furthermore, keep an eye on the frantic mediation attempts currently being orchestrated by the Gulf states.
They are executing complex diplomatic maneuvers behind the scenes to avoid being caught in the crossfire of a superpower proxy war.
That concludes our formal intelligence brief for this morning.
Before we sign off, a brief reminder regarding the technology that powered today's analysis.
Stylo News is available as both a mobile and desktop application.
It allows you to download and completely customize your own personal intelligence-style briefs, exactly like the one you heard today.
It pulls directly from hundreds of traditional news sources and social media feeds in real time, providing immediate insights.
For on-demand AI-powered news, you can subscribe at www.stylonews.com.
And with that, I think we can finally take off the 1960s news anchor hats. I have to say, keeping up that formal transatlantic posture for an entire brief is a surprisingly rigorous exercise.
Man, it really is a workout.
Right.
But honestly, it is always a pleasure to unpack these complex, fast-moving situations for you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We really appreciate you taking the time to get informed with us.
The world is moving quickly, and we are here to help you make sense of it. If there is a specific current event, a geopolitical shift, or a global trend you want us to tackle next, please reach out and request a topic for our future deep dives.
And do not forget to follow Stylo News on all your favorite social media platforms to stay updated in real time.
To leave you with one final thought to mull over today as you go about your morning.
While the entire world is rightfully watching the dramatic, cinematic exchanges of hypersonic missiles and drone swarms lighting up the night sky, the true decisive battleground of the 21st century might actually be entirely invisible.
Consider this. It might be the quiet bureaucratic offices in London determining global maritime insurance rates.
Or the silent, offensive cybersecurity protocols currently being deployed from server farms in the Midwest.
Those invisible, digital, and bureaucratic forces possess the capability to completely paralyze a nation's economy and its infrastructure without a single conventional shot ever being fired.
A chilling but absolutely necessary perspective to keep in mind.
Thanks for being with us, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.